Okay, welcome everybody. This is August 22nd, 2019's Magnitude 10 on Bluebeam. A little bit of intro and background before we dive in. Maybe 10 years ago or so, we used to do these kind of lunch and learns, and I actually gave a presentation. I think I co-presented with Pete maybe in San Diego. I don't remember exactly, but I had given a presentation on Adobe Acrobat and how to use that to mark up drawings and things like that. And that was state of the art back then. We kind of did the best we could. But looking back on it, Acrobat is so weak compared to Bluebeam. So Bluebeam is the real deal, much more powerful. It can do so much more. So this is almost a sequel to the Acrobat presentation, but Bluebeam really supersedes everything Acrobat could have done. Another introductory statement I want to make, a couple actually. So speaking for myself, I use Bluebeam dozens of times a day. I'd consider myself a reasonably knowledgeable user, but I'm no expert, and I know that a lot of us throughout the company use it just as often as I do. And for all I know, we do have experts in the company. So I'm not presenting this today because I'm the top dog in terms of who knows what Bluebeam can do. But I know enough to go through some of the basics and some of the non-basics to hopefully help. So I'm no expert, but I'll do what I can. And of course, if this presentation inspires any questions or feedback, feel free to email me and I can compile them and maybe send something out. We'll see. The last introductory thing I want to say is that the format of what I'm envisioning doing here is really simply just taking this screen here and going through all the buttons and menus and things kind of in order of where they appear on the screen. And for the sake of a screen sharing presentation, I'm going to be using buttons and menus, but it's worth saying that a lot of what you can do using buttons and menus can also be done using keyboard shortcuts, which for some people is a lot faster than clicking around. And I won't really be using the keyboard today because you can't see me do it. So, but I just wanted to make the point that a lot of the stuff in here you can do using the keyboard. Okay, so let's start. I've got an outline on my other screen here, and I'm just going to go top to bottom. I don't know how long this will take. I'm going to guess it'll take 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes. And then if we've got questions at the end, I'll do what I can. So I will start. Here we go. I'm going to start at the very top here, and I'll go from left to right, from File all the way to Help. And I'll try to take this kind of quick, just to get it done. So File. I'll skip some things that are not interesting, like File New. I don't want to go over how to make a new document. That's kind of basic. So File Print. One interesting thing about printing, what the heck? Everything closed. Strange. Let's try that again. File, print. Okay.
You're frozen.
Yeah,
there you go.
You're right. Let me fix that. Here we go. Okay, you should be able to see Bluebeam again. So what I wanted to say about the print options that's often valuable is you can print right here with or without markups. So if you want to print to PDF from a PDF for some reason, you can do so with the markups in there, without the markups in there, or even the markups only. That kind of comes in handy sometimes. All this other stuff I'm not going to go through. I just want to get through this whole thing. Moving along, let's see. I had Studio next in my outline. So Bluebeam Studio could really be an entire 1 hour long conversation on how valuable it could be if we used it, but I'll just cover the basics. So if you click Studio, this over on the right side of the screen, at least on my computer, is what shows up. right here are all the sessions I'm currently attending, and usually these sessions are started by, actually I would say most of these sessions have been started by third parties outside of the company, and they've invited us to these sessions. One of these right here, Google CLT, is an internal session. So Robert Loomers and I in San Jose and Rob Gossip in Sacramento all have access to this session such that we can all view, I'll click on it, such that we can all view and edit the same live document without emailing back and forth. So in general, the purpose of a session is to get a PDF up into the cloud for viewing and editing, etc. And you can invite people and restrict their permissions, things like that. One drawback we've seen with Studio is that I cannot edit anyone else's markups if I did not create them. So kind of a hassle. So sometimes you have to plan around that. The original author of the markup is the only one that can change it. You also cannot add pages or delete pages in a file on the cloud. Kind of a hassle, but still worth using Studio. I should also point out the DSA has started to use, what am I doing here? Leave. Has started to use sessions for their own review process. So all of these sessions with numbers in front of them are open DSA projects that we are responding to. So in a way, we are, as a structural engineering community, we are obligated to know how to use Bluebeam if you want to do a DSA project, because they use this stuff now. Okay, moving on in the file menu. I'm at the export button now. I don't use this very often, but sometimes I do. You can export a PDF to all these file types. I can't think of an example where this would be valuable, but I think I've used it before. Next button here, markups. If you depending on how you are using a Bluebeam file, you have the functionality of exporting all of the markups as a PDF or something. You can also export it as a table. Let's actually do that here. Export. Let's see. Export or summary, PDF summary. I'm not going to set any of those options differently. So markups summary PDF results in this thing. And it has created a 4-page letter-sized PDF with every markup, and a markup could be a line or a text box or anything that's been edited. Little image of the markup here, some stats on the markup here, the text of the markup here. So if your project likes markups tabulated, then you can do this. Pretty cool. I rarely do it, but I can see the value in it. Next menu, edit. The first one I want to stop on is history. This is just undo and redo. I use the keyboard shortcuts, but they're also here. Clipboard. So cut and paste. Hopefully we all can do that. Paste in place is one of the tools or the abilities of Bluebeam that is so incredibly valuable. If I'll try to do an example, although I need more than one page to do it. Let me add a page. Or add a blank page. And I'll make it the same size as the other one. And let me just make an example. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, never mind. So if you, I did the wrong sheet size. Let me try that one more time. Insert blank page, 36. And then I'll do this. So let's pretend this is a 2-sheet document, and I want to copy this. I want to So I just made a cloud just for no reason. Let's say I want to copy that markup to the next sheet, exactly where it exists on this sheet. I copy it. I just press Control-C, move on to the next sheet. If I press Control-Shift-V as opposed to Control-V, which is what I just did, it'll pop up in the exact same place on the destination sheet that it came from in the previous sheet. I find this is really, really helpful when you've got framing plans of multiple floors and you want to copy, a beam something change on one floor that is typical to another floor. You can copy that markup and paste in place in other floors, and it'll plop right in place in the same place on every sheet. I'm going to go a little out of order in my outline to mention that there's sort of a more powerful way of doing that. If you want to put the same markup on every sheet in the same place, as opposed to just another sheet in the same place, you can right-click on the markup and say Apply to all pages right here. And that will plop that markup in that location on all pages in the PDF. And the best example of where this is useful, I think, is where if we have a project where we are stamping and signing PDFs, not in CAD or Revit, but in Bluebeam, we plop my stamp and signature on one sheet, click Apply to all pages, and boom, it's on all pages in one click. So that's pretty helpful. And let's see, where are we? Format Painter. Format Painter is another tool that is so amazingly valuable. A lot of software programs have this, not just Bluebeam. It shows up in a lot of Microsoft, Word and Excel as well. But pretty simply, if I've got a rectangle here and it looks different than that rectangle, and I want to make one look like the other without manually changing all the properties to match, I can click on one, click on Format Painter, and then boom, it matches properties. And it'll do that with color and size and thickness and everything. So that's pretty awesome. Next, content. I stumbled on this a couple of months ago, and it's so amazing. Content edit text. Kind of dangerous and you'll see why in a minute, but if I say content edit text, I can come into a PDF as long as the text is true type or whatever we're doing. You can come into a PDF and edit it as if you're the drafter, and there it is. The problem obviously is that if you're bootlegging this and you don't tell your designer, then this change is lost. But it could be helpful if your deliverable is a sketch only and you just want to get in there and edit it. Other things under this button is cut and erase content. So if I select erase content and then draw this box, that content is gone forever. So one other way to do this that I used to do is I would draw a white rectangle over this thing and fill it with white, and then that would be my way of erasing. But this is quicker and more permanent. That content is now gone. It's not just behind something; it's literally gone. Next is the select button. This is all kind of self-explanatory. You can select text. Whoa. You can select text if it's of a selectable format. Move around a little bit. You guys know how to select. Lasso is kind of interesting. I don't like it. I don't use it myself, but if you have a complex shape that you want to, select. If I had markups that looked like that, I can select them. Let me try that again on this bigger sheet. So if I want to select these, but not those, and these, but not that one, Now I got a big lasso shape, and I've selected those. Another super powerful tool is Snapshot. If you click Snapshot and draw a box around something, it'll grab what you've just snapshotted, and now you have the ability to paste it as an image onto another sheet. I find that this is really helpful when you're doing a schematic level sketch and an architect sends you a PDF of a plan or something and you want to mark it up. You know, I'll do this little snapshot deal, and I'll get into this later, but you can come in there and screen it back using opacity, and now you've got a background. And I'll get into that later too. Next under edit is search. I don't know what, searching by text, that's self-explanatory. What's really impressive in Bluebeam is you can also search by image. I'm trying to find a image so search visual. So I want to search everywhere in this sheet where that image shows up. Let's see if that works. Search. Maybe not. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So now I've got a little menu of everywhere on the sheet where that image shows up. Super cool. Although it's cool, I don't use it a lot, but it is cool. Okay, next is the view menu.
Hey, Josh.
Yes,
hey, Josh?
mystery person, whoever you are. Yeah.
Hey, this is Bob in Sacramento.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, quick question for you. Actually, I was trying to do this earlier to search for a specific detail reference on the drawing. This is a DSA review project, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really figure out a way to do that.
So did you try searching by text, and that just wasn't?
Yeah, and then everything and the brother
specific
comes
enough.
Even when you limit it to that one sheet, I don't know. And the detail references are linked too. You know.
They can be. Yeah, you're right. There is an automated way to link everything. I don't. That's not part of my outline, and frankly, I don't know how to make that happen. Yeah. But if you're looking for a detail reference and all you got is text, like 6/s- something or other.
Yeah, right.
Then that can be tough because it'll return everything. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Well, first question of the day, and I couldn't help. I'm 0 for 1. Awesome. View. So again, I'm going to skip tons of buttons because they're all kind of boring. So view, rotate view. I just want to click on this a few times, and I want to mention that this is just the view. This is not literally rotating your page. So if you were to open this file again, it'll come out correct as opposed to rotated. So this is just like tilting your head. This is not changing the document. Navigate. Previous view is helpful. So I just zoomed into a detail, then zoomed back out. If I wanted to zoom back into that detail, and I don't remember where I was, navigate previous view. Let's see if that works. Yeah. So the last thing that you were looking at whatever zoom and whatever location you were at. Yeah, previous view, next view. That sometimes is helpful. Rulers, if you want to see the scale of your paper, you can toggle rulers. I never have that on. Next, documents. Let's see. Pages. This menu is really helpful. You can insert a blank page, as I've done today already. You can insert pages from a different document. You can extract pages from a multi-sheet PDF and make them their own sheets. You can split up a document based on page quantity or file size, that kind of thing. You can swap out pages from a different document, delete them, rotate them. This option here, rotate, this is the one that actually rotates the page rather than just the view. Crop pages is sometimes really helpful too if you want to take a big sheet and make it into when you know what cropping is. Boom, cropped. Now it's a smaller sheet. And then number pages is super helpful in calc packages. Actually, that's not what this does, is it? I'm going to skip that for now. Headers and footers is a good way to do page numbers. Next is, delete this page. Let me rotate this back. The next thing to show you is, where is it? Document comparison. Super helpful. So this is a powerful little tool that can take two separate PDFs and quickly show you what is different about them. So I've intentionally got two PDFs open here that are the same sheet on the same project, but they're different. One is older than the other. I just want to show two similar but different PDFs. And so I clicked on Compare Documents. You can set all these settings if you want. And I'll click OK, and that didn't work. And I'll do that. Okay, hold on. Well, that's not helpful. Okay, now this will work. Compare. Okay. There we go. So it has created a separate file. This is a separate PDF, and it has clouded in orange everything that is different about the two files. So this has a lot of uses. There's also overlay, where you can take two, nearly similar PDFs and overlay them onto the same sheet using different colors for each source, and that's another way of highlighting the differences between the two. So the colors were red and blue, and so therefore anything that is purple did not change. Anything that is blue or red is different in one of the two documents. Pretty helpful. All right, next is headers and footers. This is what we found is a really cool, quick way to add page numbers to calc packages. For example, you can come up to the top right, insert page number, give it a format, and then click OK, and everything's got a page number. Process is helpful. You can reduce the file size if you've downloaded a huge high-res file and you want to just email it out real quick, and you want to take it from 30 megabytes down to 5. You can try reduce file size. This one's kind of interesting. You can convert a file or a PDF to black and white if you wanted. You can, we'll go through more of that later. The next button is flatten. This is a critical one. To flatten something means to take a markup and essentially convert it into a non-editable thing on the PDF as if it was part of the original PDF. You can always unflatten if needed by clicking this arrow and saying unflatten. The exception is if you flattened while checking or unchecking this box. If you uncheck allow recovery and then flatten it, then you're never getting that markup back. It's a permanent citizen of the document. You can also flatten only selected markups. So you can choose this button here. You can also right-click on a markup and just flatten only it. So now that one's flattened, and I can't select it. It's flattened. All right, last on documents is page setup. This is where you can make your page bigger or smaller, or you can crop here too, etc. Page setup. All right, markups. Going from left to right, the first one that comes up is text. So this is how you do a text box. Let me stop for a second on text boxes. One cool feature is you can right-click on it and say, where is it? auto size right here, auto size. So it takes an oversized box and shrinks it to your text. I happen to have set up on my own system an auto size. So up in properties somewhere, I have told Bluebeam to just always auto size. So once I'm done with this markup, then boom, it auto sizes without me having to right click on it. What I just drew is called a call out. It's got an arrow. It's super helpful for really any coordination on documents. What I want to show you about call outs, and really most markups, you can take these little grip points or whatever you call them and tweak the angle and extent of things. If you shift click this point here, you can add leaders, which is really helpful because then if you move the text box, all the leaders follow it. So that saves a lot of time. You can right click on an individual leader and say delete leader, like that. Pen is the ability to just freehand draw something. These are all the line options. One helpful thing about a polyline, so I'll draw a polyline. You can obviously edit based on all these points, but you can also add and remove points after you've already drawn the line. So shift, click a point, removes it, and shift click not on a point adds one. So I can add points along the way. Here's some shapes. We all know shapes. I will not talk about shapes. Sketch. The sketch menu is similar to shapes, except it gives you the ability to draw something to scale. So if this document knows what scale you're at, there's a way to tell it what scale you're at. You can instruct it to draw a specifically long line or shape. So sketch equals to scale. And then let's see, I forgot about highlight. So under pen, there's a highlighter. The default functionality is just to select text to highlight it. But if you hold down Control while highlight is open, it becomes a freehand way of highlighting. Another way to highlight big regions I found is just to make a yellow rectangle. So I just highlight more than I could by doing this. Okay, moving on. Next menu is measure. This is really, really cool. If your drawing is to scale, you can interpret actual dimensions. There's a scale menu over on the right here, so you can tell the document what scale it is at. And you can either manually input the actual scale or you can calibrate. So I don't have a plan on here, but if I knew this width was 4 inches, now I have the scale in the drawing, and I can say that's 4 inches, and that's that. You can also measure areas in 2D. You can measure angles. You can count, too. I've never done this before, but I could see where it'd be valuable. So if you're counting stuff, each click puts a check mark down. If you click on the group of check marks and come into properties over here, there are 19 check marks. So I'm sure that's got a use.
Josh, just one thing about the counting. I use that a lot, but I've noticed that if you got to do it fairly fast, because once you stop.
Oh, really?
If you pause for 10 seconds, it'll stop that group, and so then you got to start another group and add them all up.
Like like I've just done. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, so that's a separate group. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Wayne. The window menu is super helpful. I like to have multiple things open at once, quite a bit. So if I want to look at this detail plus something else on the same sheet, split vertical opens up another view, and I can pan around and go find something else to look at. You can do the same thing with split horizontal, and then once all these windows are open, you can move them around your screens. Let's see, help. I'm not going to go through that, but there's help. Let's see, view. What am I doing here? View. Where? I don't remember what I wanted to say about view. Let's see. I will. So a lot of the view options, I'm now at the bottom left of my screen. I can view actual size of the document. So right now on my screen, this is as if it was printed. This is 100% literal paper size here. This one has fit the sheet to the screen. A mouse shortcut to fit to the screen, which I use all the time, is to double click the mouse wheel. So I will do that right now. And now it has zoomed to fit. Or fit width you can do, which is helpful for scrolling multi-page documents. Let's see. Zooming in and out, the way that I do it is I hold down Control, and then the mouse button does that. So that's helpful. I have a note in my outline here, and Leticia shared this with me, that under View somewhere, you can actually do something called disable line weights. It'll take every line in the entire PDF and convert it into the same line weight, so that if you've got a super cluttered, maybe it was printed wrong with the wrong pen settings, you can take all the lines and make them the same thickness. My Bluebeam program is from 2015. It doesn't have that ability. I think newer versions do, so I can't show you the effect of that, but I'm told you can do that. What was that? Anybody?
Yes, it does.
2015 can do it? Can 2015 do it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I have an icon on mine so that it's like on the sidebar, so I don't know exactly where to access it, but I can let you know.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Okay.
Well, maybe I can do it. Cool. Okay. This is the view that I wanted to go through. So I already went through all these actual size, fit page, etc. The next button over on the top right here, settings. So you can show a grid if you want. I never do that. You can do some snapping options too, which is helpful. So snap to markup will pick points and helper lines and things on markups you've already drawn. So for deliverables that are sketches 100% drawn by the Bluebeam user as opposed to markups on someone else's product, and you want to make it really nice and pretty, snapping to markups is helpful. You can also snap to content. Snapping to content is not a markup, it's instead the content of the sheet. So I'm snapping right now to the printed PDF content by doing that. Let's see, other fun things here that I won't go through. You can synchronize views. You can have two sheets open at one time, two PDFs open at one time, and you can scroll up and down at the same pace on each side of your screen by using synchronized views. Okay, so we're done with the top. We'll move to the left side here. And I think this is customizable, by the way, which menus are where on your screen. So I'm going in the order of what I see. So Bookmarks menu is the first one over here. I brought out those menus by clicking this little semicircle button here. So these are the different bookmarks of this PDF. I've deleted all but one sheet in the PDF, so these bookmarks won't work. But bookmarks are you know what bookmarks do. One cool thing you can do, let's see, there's this bookmark auto creator thing. I'll show you an example. So sometimes when we get an example of how this is used, if we get a set of, as-built drawings or somebody else's drawings that are 1,000 pages long and they're not bookmarked and you'd like them to be bookmarked, you can click on Create Bookmarks and click Page Region, select where the sheet numbers will be written on each sheet, and click OK. And what it's going to do is it's going to read that region on every sheet and create a bookmark for that sheet, assuming that all sheets are labeled in the same place, which they often are. So really cool way to quickly do bookmarks for your whole PDF. Thumbnails menu is right here. This is just a way to look at mini views of every sheet in your PDF. Next menu over here is recently opened files. Okay, so I'm done with the left side of the screen. I'll go over to the right side of the screen and I'll bring out these menus using this little button here. Properties is the first one. So if you click on any markup, it brings up on this side of the screen, every piece of data about it. The author, the content of it in text, the color. This is all pretty, I don't need to go through all this. One thing I want to show you that's really cool is this little highlight checkbox. If highlight is unchecked, the content will be drawn over the top of everything. If highlight is checked, you can see what's below it through it. Pretty helpful. What else? This change colors thing is super helpful too. So you can select multiple markups. You can select every markup on the sheet if you wanted. Maybe I'll just do that. So I've selected all the markups. If you click change colors here, you can tell Bluebeam everything that is red, make it green. And now everything that was red is now green. Pretty helpful. There's other change colors options, I think. Maybe not. Okay. All right, next little menu, this tool chest. This is really helpful. This is intended to be a little quick access menu for often used markups and things like that. Starting at the top of the screen here and down is our collections of markups that we've created internally as a tool for everyone to use. So there's a way to quote unquote install using some sort of zip file, something I don't remember, but we can, if you send an email to the engineering support group, we can guide you to how to get all of this on your computer. But it'll just preload all these markups onto your menu. You can also do your own. So I've created my own little menu here. So I've got my stamp on here and my signature, etc. And each little markup has a number next to it. And so what I find myself doing is I kind of have memorized the first half dozen of these. So if I click just numbers instead of coming over to the menu, it'll just plop auto markups on the sheet just by clicking a number on the keyboard. Let's see, I'm going to go through my these buttons now. So This is how you edit line type, weight. You can make it thicker. You can make the line type different. You can make an arrow into a non-arrow, or you can make an arrow into a circle if you wanted. You can change a line into an arrow or a double-sided arrow, that kind of thing. You can change your fill color and the transparency of it, the font size, all this stuff. Some cool thing I stumbled on the other day too was you can select multiple markups. I don't know when I would use this, but it looks cool. You can select multiple markups, and there's these align buttons. So I just clicked align left, and it forced all of the markups to align with the leftmost markup. Or I could do align top or bottom, or anyway, pretty cool. You can also flip markups. So I'll create a quick polyline, and I'll flip it horizontally or flip it vertically. So that's a quick way to flip without stretching. What's next? Let's see. I'm looking at my outline, markups tab. I'll go down here now. So I'm done with the right menu, and I'll go down to the bottom area here. Another super helpful part of Bluebeam is it'll organize all your markups for you, and you can sort them by what page they're on, who wrote the markup, when the markup was, what the color of the markup is, etc. So if I wanted to take all my markups as opposed to Robert's markups and do something with them, I can sort by markup and select all mine. Maybe I want to flatten all mine and not Robert's, so I've selected all mine. Select, flatten by selected, and boom, now all my markups are flattened and Robert's are not. You can also delete from this menu. So if I wanted to delete all my markups, you can select and delete, as opposed to hunting for what was mine or what was green or what was yesterday. Let's see. So that's it for that menu. Also near the bottom of the screen, that's really helpful sometimes, is the sheet sizes here. Sometimes it's relevant to know what size sheet you're working on, and it's always going to be right there. This happens to be 36 by 48. Okay, my little outline's almost done. I've got a miscellaneous section to go through just for 1 minute with a bunch of tips that don't really fall into any menu. The first one I want to mention is grouping. So if I select both of these, I'll make them a different color so we can see them. If I want to group both of these, I select both of them, and I hit Control G, and now those two markups exist as one object that can be moved around or modified, as if it was one markup. You can edit things while they're in a group. I can double click on text and edit it. I can press Alt while things are grouped and edit little bits of it. And then when I release Alt, it's back to just being a group. Another thing I want to mention with the Alt key, if you grab this and move it, it'll stretch the leader. If you press Alt while doing the same thing, it'll move the whole markup, if that's convenient for you. Another tool, the miscellaneous feature, is for any old markup. Any old markup. Oh man. You can right click on it and say set as default. And if I was to click that, it would mean that in the future, every call out that I make from scratch will start out as a red, this text, this line weight object.
Hey, Josh.
Yes.
Way in San Diego. Another way you can do that is if you click on the thing or whatever you want to do, but before you click on the page to make it, then you change all those settings and then do it, and it'll also do that.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Did not know. Yeah. Okay. So currently my default is this, and I can change, if I prefer blue, then I can right click on something blue and say set as default, or do what Wayne did. Selecting multiple items, just FYI, is shift. So hold down the shift key, and I'm now selecting multiple items. What's next? One other miscellaneous thing. I want to make sure my screen is showing correctly. Hold on a second. Is this working? Hold on, guys. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to share not just Bluebeam, but my entire desktop. So if I want to convert something, here's a photo. Okay. Out in the Windows Explorer environment, you can use right-clicking to do things with Bluebeam. So I can convert this picture into a PDF by doing that, or I can make a single PDF out of all four of these by doing this combine. Pretty helpful. What's next? Okay, this is kind of a specific, pretty specific tip here. I forgot to mention dimensions. So under Markup somewhere, under Markup line, you can do dimensions. So instead of drawing dimensions like this, which is ugly looking, you can do Shift L or go through the buttons and just do it that way, and text comes with it. One thing I wanted to mention about dimensions is that if you don't like where it placed the text for you, you can press Shift and move the dimension text wherever you want to go. Another thing I want to mention, I'm going to make this a group. If you have Shift held down while you are dragging or moving something, it'll keep it orthogonal. So right now I'm pressing Shift and I'm moving this thing, and Bluebeam is forcing it to stay at a 0-degree movement or a 90-degree movement. Similarly, when you can rotate things by this little grab button here, by default it rotates it in 15-degree increments, but if you press Shift, you can rotate it in 1-degree increments, like that. I've come to the end of my outline. It's 12:53, and let's use 7 minutes for questions if there are any. That's all I had to go through. Wanted to keep it basic and quick. So chime in if you've got anything to say.
Hey, Josh, I was just thinking there was two things that I use a lot that you didn't mention. I don't know if you're aware of them. But,
go for it.
One of them, like what you were talking about, how you like take the snapshots and stuff. Will you do one of those real quick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then just put it somewhere else. Like a lot of times I'll do stuff like this, and you can right click on there and go to change colors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this is a really powerful thing where, like, especially with stuff with different colors, like sometimes if you have like a halftone stuff, you can change gray to green and all that kind of stuff, which is super cool.
I agree. Thank you, Wayne.
And then the other one was, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
There's, in the view thing, there's the profiles thing.
Oh, yeah. I hesitate to ever click that because it always resets something for me. Yeah, the profiles are...
The profiles is interesting because what it basically does is it saves... An individual profile basically saves every setting you've done with your Bluebeam. So, it's actually really nice if you have Bluebeam exactly the way you want it on that profile, you can actually export that profile and put it to a new computer and stuff like that.
So you don't use it to toggle between profiles, but you could just take a profile with you. You're saying.
You can. I mean, like I have, like right now I use two profiles. Like I'm doing DSA. I have one for like my DSA review jobs and then one for my regular stuff. And it's like super easy. I can just click back and forth between them, and that way you don't have to like, because the DSA review stuff always screws up the rest of the Bluebeam and like things like that. So that's super nice if you have it what you want it to, and then suddenly you got to reinstall Bluebeam. You can just save it and not have to spend 2 hours getting it back the way you want it.
I'm exporting mine right now. Josh, save, done. Thanks, Wayne. Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Yeah, Josh, I had a question. Is there a way to copy and paste things orthogonally holding shift the way that you were moving things?
Definitely.
That would be super helpful.
So let me show you something, and I think it's going to do what you're wanting it to do. So if I want this square to be exactly right here, but a little bit over, what I will do is copy it, which I just did on my keyboard, Control-Shift-V, which pastes it in place. So now there are two rectangles literally on top of each other. And I will grab the top one using Shift and move it over. And I can do that several times. And all of these are aligned vertically. Is that what you're getting at? I'm going to take that as a yes. You're welcome.
And Josh, you can actually just hold down Control and click on it, and it'll just Control. Yeah, Control and Shift. Control the copy and then hold down Shift, and it'll do the orthogonal.
Can you go through that one more time? Hold down what and do what? Hold down
Control.
Shift, Control.
No, just hold down Control and click on it.
Yeah, done.
And then hold down the clicker.
Hold down the clicker.
Hold down the button on the mouse, and then you switch over to Shift.
You're right. Wow. Thank you. That's basically, that's kind of the same exact thing that I did, but with 2 or 3 less clicks. That's cool. Okay. Thank you. Very good.
Hey, Josh, this is Kevin from San Jose.
Kevin, you're in the building today, aren't you?
Yes.
Hello.
One thing you went over was I'm not sure if people can hear me, but there was the search function. I've done this on a few projects where whenever there's a lot of detail reference changes where the numbers get rearranged instead of, just consecutively adding them. One thing you can search is if they're in a bubble, like a section bubble, you can say like 3 space S501, for example, and it'll find that exact bubble. So like if you can,
really?
Yeah. So like look for a detail bubble, like this
right here, 3.
Well, with like a.
Or does it need
the
okay.
sheet number, like
yeah, I know what you're saying. Let me just make one up here and I'll flatten it. Yes. So this is detail 3 on sheet S1.
And then if you go to the search function, and then look up 3 space S1.
S1?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Bob G, does that help? That's kind of what you were getting at. That's awesome, Kevin.
Bob ran away, but we'll tell him.
No continuing education credits for Bob today.
Yep.
Okay, 12:58. Anybody got 2 minutes worth of wisdom? Real quick.
I can throw one more thing. If you go to the page number thing again.
Page number or header and footer?
Header, footer, yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
And then that link on the bottom right, the batch page range, is helpful so that you don't put number 1 in the page number or your cover page.
Not on the cover sheet. Yeah, perfect. Yep. Good call. So yeah, hey, thanks everybody. I'm still finding things out every day, but man, this program is pretty slick. Looking forward to upgrading someday beyond 2015. And if anybody has any more nuggets of tips, then share it with the engineering support group, and we'll try to distribute it. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome. Have a good day, everybody. What was that, Wayne?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we're a lot of power users down here, but we all had like a brain explosion at least one time.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
that was the objective. Cool. Well, I'm glad this was helpful for some people. Have a great Thursday, everybody.
Hey, Josh.
What are you?
See you later.
Bye.